Bonjour à tous, je m'appelle Sonia Ranou, je suis la directrice du Grenoble Indian Film Festival et avec toute l'équipe, on est ravis de vous avoir tous avec nous aujourd'hui pour cette nouvelle séance avec Zoom. Je voulais vous dire qu'on est ravis, on a un grand privilège d'avoir avec nous aujourd'hui Tannishtha Chatterjee, qui est une des comédiennes les plus talentueuses du cinéma indien. Bien sûr, vous avez vu son nom dans divers festivals à travers le monde, que ce soit Cannes, Berlin, Toronto, Rotterdam, Venise. Donc, c'est quelqu'un d'extrêmement connu sur le milieu du cinéma indien et qui aujourd'hui, depuis l'année dernière, qui s'est lancée sur un projet de réalisation, elle est devenue cinéaste. On va passer ce moment avec elle. Je suis très curieuse de vous la présenter, puisqu'on a aussi, bien sûr, envie de la voir avec nous un jour au Grenoble Indian Film Festival. Vous l'avez vu dans Lyon, vous l'avez vu dans Parched, qui est donc la saison des femmes. Vous l'avez vu également dans Brick Lane, bien sûr. Vous l'avez vu dans le film Shadows of Time de Florian Gallenberger, qui a été oscarisé pour un court-métrage. Vous l'avez vu dans Angry Indian Goddesses, les déesses indiennes en colère, et plein d'autres films. Elle a également donc joué dans Un Indienne, elle a joué dans beaucoup de films. J'arrive pas à tous les citer puisqu'on a peu de temps, mais on va commencer voilà l'entretien. I'm just switching to English. Thank you so much, Tanishta, for being with us. We're so proud, so happy to have you.
I know you said lovely things about me.
So I just said, to sum up, I said Tanishta is one of the most talented actors in Indian cinema, and such a privilege to have you. And then to know that you've gone into filmmaking, so you've directed. It's so. I'm so curious to know what your feelings are about that. But just before that, let me just explain. So we've seen you, every festival almost has had you the top festivals in the world. On a eu Monsoon Shootout, que j'ai oublié. I'm coming back to Monsoon Shootout. Cannes. We've had Brick Lane, we've had Shadows of Time with Florian Gallenberger, Oscar for a short film. We've had you in Parched, we've had you in Angry Indian Goddesses, Panna Lin's film. And then we come to a part where we now hear your name as a filmmaker. And so it was such an amazing experience to think, wow, we met at Marrakesh Film Festival in 2005, and I see the progression and I see where you are today. And knowing that you're going to be directing season 3 of Four More Shots, Please, nominated for Emmy. So, I mean, all this is absolutely fabulous. How do you see yourself today with all this background with the time that's gone from when you began?
Time just flew because I was working so much and also traveling quite a bit, living across continents because I did move to England for about 6 years in between, after doing Brick Lane. And my sister lives in New York, so at that point of time, I was spending a lot of time there, sort of shuttling between Mumbai, London, and New York. I did quite a bit of work in Australia as well with the Asia Pacific Screen Awards and, Un Indian.
Congratulations for that. Congratulations for the Asia Pacific. It's so rare to have, our filmmakers, our actors with these awards that are world famous. And so it's such a big moment of pride. So what was your feeling with this, and what was the response that you got from
So the thing is that it's been so busy, and what is interesting and really enriching for me as an artist, I would say, not only as an actor, is to collaborate with such amazing talent across the globe, working with Garth Davis and Lion, with Joe Wright, in Anna Karenina, with Sarah Gavron, Brick Lane, with Lina Yadav, Ruchika Oberoi for Island City, Parched, Pan Nullen. So all these directors, a lot of women directors as well, whether they're Indian, whether they're English, Australian, they all have a very international sensibility. and they all want to cross boundaries and make storytelling and human emotions more universal. So I think it has been a very enriching experience, just sort of working with so many different kinds of people across cultures, and just absorbing as a human being, as an artist.
Tannishtha, tell me a little bit more about yourself, how you came into this world of acting, so that our viewers, people who are following us at Grenoble Indian Film Festival, know a little bit more about your background. And because a lot of people tell me, Chatterjee, that is Bengali, but what else do we know? So I was like, this is the moment, and she's going to tell you exactly what her background was. So tell us a little bit.
So yes, I come from a Bengali home, and anybody who knows a little about Bengalis, they are sort of quickly inclined towards creativity and arts. Though my father is an engineer and my mother, she used to teach, but because my dad traveled quite a bit with his job profile, she became a homemaker very soon in her life. So, like, she gave us, my sister and I, a lot of attention. And I mean, though academia and academics was always a priority, but we had a lot of exposure to music and dance and theater and literature and art, all kinds of things right from our childhood, and a lot of exposure to European cinema. And all this was sort of, my mom, taking us, because my sister and I, we grew up quite a bit in Delhi. Those formative teenage years where you actually sort of absorb all these things. And Delhi had a beautiful, beautiful atmosphere, especially in the winters, of a lot of concerts and theater performances, international artists coming and performing. Our college had something called the Spic Mackay, which sort of, a lot of classical artists would do lecture demonstrations explaining what a Bharatanatyam dance is all about, or what is Kathakali all about, or what is Hindustani classical, and what is Carnatic music, and how Western classical is different in terms of its approach. I think all this was something, I mean, apart from me studying science, I'm a chemistry graduate. This was constantly a part of my life. And I guess I didn't even know when I branched into theater and then joined National School of Drama, and that was it. Like, life just sort of took over from there, and all these interesting films that I did. So yes, I mean, I don't come from a film family. I don't come from a family where I have a tradition of musicians or dancers or theater artists or actors or directors, anything like that. But it's just a very normal Bengali family where this is a part of you. And yeah, at some point of time, my sister is also a very, very good dancer. I mean, she's doing a postdoc in Columbia University right now.
Wow.
But she's also a very, very good dancer. So I think it was just a sort of things that we kind of grew up with. And I have to give it to my mom and my dad, who kind of, made it so simple and easy.
So that's really interesting for us, because then that helps everybody understand why you're such a curious person, why you like to explore. You're in constant exploration of what you can find, how you can push the limits, the boundaries, and go further. And one sees that in your work. One sees that in the different types of films that we see with you. I'm just coming to your choices of films, Tannishtha. Tell me a little bit about your choices. I follow obviously things, but like so many people, I say she is so clever with the way she's choosing things in her career. And I'm sure that there's things pouring from every direction, and that one has to be clever in how you're going to be choosing and what you're going to be doing. So it's a double kind of a question, because you're going to be inspiring. You're an inspiration for a whole, generation of young girls wanting to be actresses. So how to be careful, and at the same time, one has to have the wisdom of saying no to things. How do you choose, and how do you decide that?
So of course, when you come, in the beginning, you don't have a choice, because you're sort of trying to get the parts, you're auditioning. And of course, now with all the OTT platforms, the opportunities have opened. It's bursting with opportunities. But, in 2006, 2005, when you first met me, it wasn't the same. It was quite difficult to actually get. There was limited work. So there was no choice. When I did Shadows of Time, it was a beautiful film, a fantastic script, and a really great director who won an Academy Award for his short film. So when he selected me after many rounds of audition, I was just enthralled and really elated. And the same with Brick Lane. I auditioned for it, and Sarah loved me, and we had a lovely collaborative relationship there. Thereafter, like Parched was actually Lena is a friend, and there was a day when we were just having dinner together, and I narrated her a story of a woman in a village in Gujarat whom I met in another film when I was shooting Dev Benegal's film, actually. And she really sort of took to that story, and then we went together to that village, and she met a lot of other people and then wrote Parched. So Parched was our combined idea. We
I didn't
created it.
know that. I didn't know that. See, I'm discovering this, which is
Yeah.
fabulous. How interesting. This is so
And
interesting to know.
then Indian goddesses. I've always admired and loved Nalin's work. And a very, very dear friend of mine, Dilip Shankar, who's one of the most beautiful people that I know, actually. So he introduced me to Nalin, and said that he's just wanting to have these interesting women, and he wants to make a film which we don't know what it would be. We'll just find as we go. And I was like, oh wow, that's such an interesting process, that we create our own things. And we see, and so Nalin's film, none of us were given scripts. We were thrown into
No.
situations and improvisations. And in fact, except for me, all the other actors, they created their own characters as well. I was the only one whose character was defined by the writer. But I was thrown into improvisations and situations, and I didn't know what is going to happen. So it was quite an experimental sort of process, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And it was great to sort of work with him. And mm, so what happens to me is, at a later stage when I could pick and choose, I always looked for things which are sort of a little out of the box. And that's always a risk as well. With Nalin's film, without a script, without knowing what you're playing, what you're getting into, it could have like really fallen flat on your face. But having seen Nalin's previous works, we all said that no, we can trust this guy, whatever he's doing, let's submit ourselves to this process. So I always take those risks. With Lion, I wanted to play a character which the God said to me that evil does not always necessarily need to look evil. And Tan, you've always played these nice characters. I want to find that evil person in you.
How
And no one's ever
interesting.
given you, yes, he said, no one's ever given you an evil character. I was like, yes, I want to do this, So I think it's the length of the role never matters to me. It's how connected I am to the makers. And to certain extent, have I ever explored and found a part like this before? If it is something that I've played like 20 times before in my career, I am a little reluctant, even though it's a long, nice part, unless again, it has certain layers where I can bring in something. So I'm looking for things which are actually different from each other, where it'll challenge me, it'll push my boundaries. And I think that's exactly why I just went ahead and made this film as well. And it was also one such thing that Nawaz and I, we were shooting for Lion together and just discussing life, art, acting, things that two actors always do when they're sitting idle in a makeup van waiting for their shots. And from there came this whole idea, why don't we do something together? And I started writing, and then we made Rome Rome.
See, but the thing is that what's super interesting and what fascinates me, knowing people, seeing their work, I go from thinking that this whole process of how the person learned, through this and this and this film, from what I know. And when Nalin says, well, it was improv, then what did she learn from that? And how did she pick that up and say, well, one day if I want to direct, because not everybody wants to direct, you see, and to gain that confidence to come to direction from being an actor, you're going to have an angle that other people will not have. So that, when did you gain the confidence of saying, I can jump into, direction, and I can feel comfortable with, because I can see that you're somebody who intervenes, who wanted interaction, whether it's at the writing stage or giving the idea or all sorts of stages. So you didn't want to be the person just reading the script and then being there for the shots. So this interaction also shows that you've got the shoulders. In French we say you got the shoulders, the solidity.
Sonia, I mean, I lost you for
okay. So I'm just repeating that. I said that we say in France that you got the shoulders. You realize that you have the shoulders. You've got the courage to be able to carry the project. When did you realize this?
Okay. So I actually never did. Rome may happen by accident. And I think a lot of good things in life happens by accident. As you keep making plans, there's this whole old saying that life is what happens to you while you keep making plans. And I am a great believer of that. Yeah, it just happened by accident, because when we were discussing, like I said, Nawaz and I, we were discussing this whole thing. I really thought like how I collaborated in Parched with Leena, that, I'll come up with an idea and then we'll get a director and Nawaz and I will act in it and we'll sort of collaborate and do this together. But as I wrote, I continued writing, and every time I discussed it back with Nawaz, like after the first draft that I wrote, more and more, he was the one who kept pushed me. He kept pushing me. And he said, Tan, it's a very weird idea. It also comes from a very personal space. It happened to you, this really surreal experience. No one's going to understand. So I just think you should go and make it. And I was like, really? I have never directed anything. And he just said, no, you'll be able to do it.
So he had confidence. He had confidence, trust.
Yes. And then, he kind of pushed me, and that's how I started thinking about it. I was like, okay. And every time, I would go to film something else as an actor, he would call me and say, Tan, what are you doing? Aren't we going to make this? And I didn't know whether I believed for quite some time, and that therefore I was reluctant to write it fully, like beyond the idea. It was just like a little sort of an idea, but I was reluctant. I was like, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Like, what are we going to do?
And so finally the response, amazing.
And the thing is that then of course, when my producers came on board, there was no going back. And I had to actually prepone everything. And I wasn't even ready with my script, and we had to just go there and film. And we jumped into it. And a lot of my experienced filmmaker friends told me, Tan, don't think you'll ever be ready. You just sort of plunge into it and you will learn through the process. It's just your first film. Learn from your mistakes as well. Don't think you have to make a perfect, you have to enjoy the process. You have to follow your heart. And since it's coming from your personal space, so whatever expression it is, it's your expression. So don't judge it. Oh, the world will, but just plunge into it. That's how films are made. So I was like, okay.
What did you learn from this? What was the big thing that came out? Because see, the cinema world, you're part of that world. You feel I know, the script part. I write, I do this, I do that. I'm acting in films. I've known it for so long, and then you feel that in that chair, there's other things that you discover, and you say, well, going into that space is a total whole different thing. So how does it make you? What is your reaction to that? What did you learn from that?
I think I learned a lot about filmmaking because as an actor, of course, I knew a lot of things. But while making Rome Rome, I realized, especially about editing, that there are many aspects of filmmaking where I still need to learn so much. And I mean, I thought I knew all these things because you're there on set, and you've sort of been and played so many different parts with so many different kinds of directors, and you've seen it. And I've always been a little curious. I've had conversations, but it is, I mean, yes, your emotions, your what is driving your story, all those things are important. But what is also extremely, extremely important is certain technical aspects of how you're actually executing it. That you can have all these brilliant ideas, but there is a technique to execute and to bring about those brilliant ideas. So you just sort of master your technique more and more as you, and like everything else, like acting, like music, like everything else in every other art, like dance, the more you practice, the more you do, the better you become. And the and the more you can experiment, the more you can play with the medium.
Now, in this case, but still you're feeling that I'm not alone. I do my part as an actor, then I go to my van. I do my part as a technician, and then I have nothing else to say. But
Yeah.
when you're the director, it's everything depends on you. Did you feel that responsibility? Obviously, you're surrounded by the chosen people of who you're going to do this with, who you feel good with. So that experience obviously is also something to have the responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I think, it is a huge responsibility. And because, my film is also mostly shot in Rome, we had a very limited crew. So my producers also, they came in the beginning of the shoot, and then they came back at the end of the shoot. But the rest of the shoot was sort of on my shoulders. Of course, they streamlined everything, and I had wonderful Italian line producers who were really, really sort of fantastic. But the entire team, whether be it the Italian team or the Indian team, we were working together. They all came together because of this one person. I brought them together. I chose them. I met them. My Italian actors as well, but the Indian counterparts, everyone. It was some of them were because of my relationships with them through years of working. But the Italian crew, I didn't know them personally. I just met them on the job. And there were so many people who just became lifelong friends in that whole process. So yes, I think it's quite a bit of administrative work as well.
Yeah.
It is emotional,
Yes.
because creative people are also emotional. So it's managing emotions in, it's very beautiful. It is so yeah, I mean, I think I learned a lot, and it was a very different experience from being an actor.
Because sometimes you're saying to yourself, okay, well, I tried this out. And there's people who go back and say, well, this is not for me. We come across these experiences where people try, okay, let me go into production. Well, finally, I was an actor. Well, I'm happy as an actor.
I just got a call from the makers, and they hadn't even seen my film. They just heard about the film and said that, listen, would you want to do this? And I said that, okay, let me read season 3 and let me see, if I connect. And then we met a few times. We discussed the, extensive. We had extensive discussions, and then yeah, it was just like that. Like, so we got along really well, and decided, yeah, let's do this together.
So it's been quite an experience with very different things coming up. And I was reading that you're waiting for, obviously this is going to be shot abroad, right? In Europe, you're going to be shooting this abroad.
No, no, no. It's mostly in Mumbai and a bit
Okay.
of it in Europe. Yes.
Okay. Tanishta, I want some scoops. Are you on a French film? I
You have to get me a French film now.
We're
Come
going to
on.
get you. We're going to get you a French film. So tell me who you would like to work with. Whose work do you know? And obviously, following and having come to Cannes quite a few times, huh?
Yes.
Whose work do you
I
like, and
mean,
who would you
I
like
would
to work with?
see, the thing is that the French cinema and Italian cinema and Polish cinema, all these greats of European cinema have always sort of really enamored me for many, many years. I'm not going to be partial naming one and leaving out others. I am a huge fan of, obviously the French New Wave, but also a lot of the contemporary French films and filmmakers. And also the fact that, there's so many people who are crossing ethnicities to make French films, actually.
Yeah, yeah,
An
yeah.
Iranian filmmaker makes a French film. I mean, of course, Ashghar Farhadi I'm talking about. And a lot of Iranian filmmakers, a lot of other European filmmakers, they all live in Paris and they make films in French, because France and Paris and, this whole artistic thing again, the Bengaliness in me is saying all this. They have always given platform to artists, right? So yes, I would love to work in a French film with an exciting new director, or a younger director, something that's like which is cross cultural, which is not looking at ethnicity in the traditional way. I think we have to break those barriers. You can be, and that was really interesting when Joe Wright decided to cast me in Anna Karenina.
Tell me about
That's
that.
how, yeah. And there is nothing like that in Tolstoy's novel, right? When he first I got an email from him, and I also sing a Bengali song there, which Anushka Shankar had composed. So I think we have to do, I mean, I expect French directors and artists to do things like that, like, cross borders and just cast them for who they are and not think about what they look like. It could be anybody, right?
So it's interesting because see what I'm seeing from you is that this you're going into different spheres is so important for you. Huh? Now I'm just coming back to the barriers. I'm breaking the barriers. How much of this have you seen in Indian society with the changes that we want? Right? Everybody says Tanishta Nandita. Okay, so speaking about two actresses who want the change, who are active, who do things, who are, activists at so many levels, want to change things. So the roles play that role also to inspire, right? To make and bring that change. What are these causes that are important to you? Where you feel that we need to work more on.
I think women, of course, and independence of women, in the true sense. I think I have lived fairly a very independent life. Having said that, yes, I do come from a place of privilege. But yeah, in many ways, also not that privilege. You have to create that privilege for you. So the struggles obviously are very different. And I wouldn't say, like, as an actor or as a filmmaker, are my struggles more difficult than my male counterparts. I would say they're very different. They are different for them, and they're different for us.
Right.
I mean, many people asked me that, as a woman filmmaker, like when you directed Rome May, did you face patriarchy or any bias on your set? And I'm like, no. I had a beautiful team. I never thought, oh, I'm a woman filmmaker. My DOP was a woman. My costume designer, my Italian costume designer, my Indian costume designer, both of them were women. My Italian, yeah, my production designers both were men. My first assistant was a man, but my second and my continuity supervisor, and she was a woman. So it was a very mixed sort of crew. My casting director, Italian casting director, and my associate, she was a woman. It was a very mixed crew. I never thought, oh, I'm picking a man or a woman, or nobody ever like judged anyone for their gender at all. In fact, a lot of my Italian male actors said to me that, oh my God, this is such a wonderful team of so many women. And two of my actors said that we've never worked with a woman director and a woman DOP.
Ah.
And it's like such a pleasure. It was like so much fun. And, you know, it's...
And so,
it's a very, yeah,
and their
I mean,
reaction? Their
they
reaction?
they loved working with us, and they were not like, you know, I mean, they said that, you know, we've never worked with a woman DOP or a woman director, but this is amazing. So they loved working with us. Nawaz said one thing, because he had also shot Manto with Nandita, and he would always like have that resemblance. He said that, you know, the compassion or the energies are different. So the male energy of the administrative energy is probably different from the, or maybe it is individual, or probably, you know, he was just saying that Nandita and I, we were a little similar in that manner, and we are different from the other directors. So yeah, I mean, it was everyone on set, there was a lot of stress with schedules and this and that. But when we began when we began shooting, it was a blast. There was not a single moment of stress.
Which is wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
But that's why it left you this
creative energies. Yeah, it just, you know, that was bursting. And I think what was interesting, that it's not that I created it. I always had thought that I want to create that atmosphere for everyone to burst with their creative energies. And the thing is, but that sort of happened. I don't know whether my end product is good or bad or whatever, but even till date, when I speak to my cinematographer, my assistants, Nawaz, they all say that filming of Rom Rom May was one of the most memorable experiences that they'll ever have in their lives.
That is so wonderful.
That is really wonderful. You know, out of people, even my Italian counterparts, they always say that this was such a special experience.
So that is something that you're going to obviously cherish and use, and all this is going to help you for the future. Coming back to the memories and what's going to be memorable. So this year we've lost Irfan. Yeah. And obviously everybody's been devastated by this, and there's something that's going to be empty in us, all of us. I've been asking, and I will be asking everybody the same question as to what it's been like to work with him. You've worked with him, and what marked you about Irfan?
See, I've worked with him as a co-actor as well, but I would actually mention what many people do not know is that when I first came to Mumbai, I did a small film, a short film actually, which Irfan directed.
Wow.
And yes, and I was one of the main actors in it. There was Sanjay Mishra who was playing the lead, and I was playing I was one of the main actors, and so he directed me. And that was my first. It was not my first interaction with Irfan. I had an interaction with him before that, because his wife Shutapa had written sort of a socially, you know, a social messaging event, which me and another friend of mine acted in. So we first met Irfan through Shutapa in that particular, you know, encounter. But this was like professionally working with him. And so my first professional experience with Irfan is an actor-director relationship.
And how was it?
He is a beautiful director. And I always said that Irfan, Nasir sir, Florian, with whom I, did Shadows of Time, and of course, a lot of my teachers in National School of Drama. But after drama school, Nasir sir and Irfan were the two people who actually gave me this sparks. I don't know how to define it, because acting is a very personal process. But a guide can make you understand that personal process where you discover something. You just suddenly feel, oh my God, something opened. And I got what you said. And Irfan did that to me in that little short film, and I had like some 4 or 5 scenes in it because it was a short film anyway. So even then, he was able to open some block, like me coming from a drama school background, which is like theater, and then branching into the cinematic medium as an actor. Because Irfan was a master of minimalism. Right. So he does nothing. And yet you see his internalization, his internal life of the character. And so we've always admired, he's from a senior from drama school, you've looked at him and you've admired that sort of work. And then you get to work with him, my first experience with him. And he sort of unblocks something that I understood of how truthful and how truth is projected in front of the camera, and how a lot of times, we are told by people, oh, you're an actor, so you must be like, so it's so easy for you to act even in real life. But it's actually the reverse. Good actors are always practicing not to ever act. And therefore we are vulnerable, we are emotional, because we are always reacting.
So
this whole thing, do not act, react. This is the tip that anyway, even in drama school, in any acting class, you will get, that you listen to your co-actor. These are like really basics I'm talking about. And don't say your lines. Just don't memorize your lines and just say it. You listen to your co-actor, who's the character that you have to react to. You have to respond, because that's what you do in life. And so the thing that actors constantly practice is to absorb different experiences in the most truthful manner that we can. And that is the truth that we actually bring about when we are in front of the camera. At least that's what we try. Yes.
Now this is so it's very precious for us to learn this, and I'm sure that new aspiring actors would take these tips, which are very precious. Your feeling is there a kind of a difference working on an Indian film and working on an international project? Obviously, we know the big differences, but in terms of acting, do you feel that there is what stands out? What do you appreciate about both?
I think that in the past, it used to be when I began, like, my career, when I did Brick Lane or Shadows of Time and, all those films. But now I think it has more and more and more merged, because I think there are a lot of, like Chaitanya's film was in Venice after so many years, Disciple. And his first film also, Court, is just absolutely gorgeous and such a fantastic film. And look at the work he's done with actors there. They are so real. They are just, you almost feel like they're those people. It feels like he's just shot them, he's documented them, and he's not written a piece of fiction, and they're not actors at all. So I think, the approach here also has changed in the last few years. And we are looking at acting in the same manner that, internationally as well, everywhere else people look at. So we are getting closer to, I think the world as such is becoming smaller in that manner. Things are overlapping with social media, with the internet, with OTT platforms, where, a Spanish show becomes a big hit in India. I'm talking about. So I'm saying that therefore, you know what, the audiences are also watching. You're watching different kinds of things, and the style in which we are therefore exploring things are becoming more and more universal.
What would you say also about Bollywood and projects that are people approaching you? Do people approach you for Bollywood films? Do you get scripts?
See, the thing is, the last 1 year, like before the pandemic, I was really busy with Rom May, and now the last 6 months we've done nothing, and my memory has faded for everything right now, and I feel I'm a changed person. I'm not the same Tanishta as I was 6 months back. Of course, I mean the core is the same, but there's something that has shifted. You know, you've kind of realized how things don't matter at all. You know, when I get all these ads on Facebook that, you know, for kids you have to start coding really early if you want to become like a Bill Gates and this and that and a billionaire. I'm like, what if you don't want to become a billionaire? Why are these ads so for us? Why is that only the aspiration? What is the point? And so a lot of philosophical questions, of course, like it's always been there, but this pandemic has taught us a lot and made us hopefully really go deeper at a time when the first 2 3 months of the pandemic, we saw how a city like Mumbai or Delhi, which are so polluted, we could see this beautiful sky, clean, the birds, we could hear them chirping, there no traffic sounds. It was stunning. I know many people would say these are elitist, you know, of course, yeah, that's one aspect of it. But just coming to basic idea of human existence with nature, if we just killed, I mean, we realize that the world and the earth just does not need us.
And it's a bit of a shock, huh?
I mean, yeah, wow, they don't need us at all.
Yeah. It's good that you're saying this, which is a good transition for me, because Grenoble, our city, is competing, is in the final rounds to compete for to be the European capital, green capital.
Right.
So our mayor is, you know, from the Green Party, etc. The recent elections, we've had what, 5 6 mayors in France now have big cities, huh? And these are the environmental parties in France. So we're going towards this thing, and obviously COVID, these few months we've had is a big awakening for a lot of people, huh? So you feel that cinema too is going to be, you know, influenced by what's happened?
Definitely distribution, one, it seems that would be influenced. We saw the Tenet released in the theaters, but hardly people actually went to watch. I hope like very soon we come back to normal in terms of the arts, because live interaction like theater, music, all that really gives you a very different. I mean, I don't like the online world so much. I think it's terrible for, it's good for certain things, but it's terrible for, you know, I have a 4.5-year-old daughter, and she's sitting in front of the computer and doing online classes at this age. I mean, come on. I mean, I want her to play. That's all. I want her to go to park and play with other kids, but she plays on her own, and all the kids are like that. So I don't like this world too much. I don't like the online world too much. I think the physical world teaches us much more, traveling, human to human interaction, and that from there comes out our creative expressions. And so when I have a live performance in a music or a theater, or go to watch a cinema with 500 other people on a screen and go to a film festival and discuss things with other filmmakers and charge. That is what life is. That's what we are, humans. Otherwise, we are not even, see, we're not as good as animals, right? We can't live with nature. We have no contribution to this earth. If we can't even express ourselves and we have to do this all the time, then what's the point of the existence of Homo sapiens? I think we should then perish completely. What is the point? I mean, the only thing that makes us different is that we create our imagination. And our imagination can't just go wild unless we interact with real organic things, with trees and plants and sky and travel and other human beings, and we have our fights and our discussions and our love and our touches and our hugs and all that. It's a very physical thing. So it is affecting cinema right now. It is affecting the arts. It's affecting the way things are getting written. You know, this whole sanitized world, acting is becoming like, okay, stay away, wear a mask. I mean, it just, we're not being able to be vulnerable. That vulnerability that I was talking about, that nakedness, that truth, it's all getting stifled. Voices are getting stifled, right? So I hope very soon we're out of this, and that's the release that everyone looks for when you watch a piece of work, when you hear a piece of music. It's that's what touches us, right? So we have to be there.
So tell me a little bit about just what you're working with in the future. But just before that, I want to say what you've just said is, I know you a little bit, and I know what a profound, kind, generous person you are. And I remember you calling me up to tell me if I was taking care of my throat and what I was having, and all the tips you gave me for my throat, my cough with COVID. And I was totally touched, because I felt that in our desperate moment that we're living, all of us, it had to bring something and make people closer and feel for each other, but also reveal to us generosity that there is among people. And I felt that was so touching. And but that's just what I'm sharing with viewers. And as a person, I can imagine what it's like to be on your set, with the kindness and the way you take care of people, the caring and sharing that I often say is that it's our only future. And you have projects about after COVID, post-COVID. I'm not allowed to say everything here, but tell me what you're working on in terms of films or whatever you'd like to share with us.
So there's one project that I would be acting in, and it's kind of the main story is written by me, and Onid is going to direct that. And so that's one thing. Of course, 4 more shots whenever we are able to begin. That'll be the other thing. And I mean, these 2 are just going to take a lot out of my out of me. Apart from this, there's another film that I had signed before the lockdown, and as an actor, and I don't know, we have to like replan when do we shoot and how the would work out. And there's another film that I hadn't signed, but it was almost on the final stages of discussion. But again, it's all up in the air. I don't know when we'll be able to resume shooting. Also, if dates would clash, whether I would be able to do those projects anymore, so it's some of the stuff is up in the air. Yeah.
But it's good to know. Yeah. It's positive. It's good to know, because then I'm
writing a lot of things. I'm also writing a lot of things. It's just like very different scattered ideas here and there.
So it's very good, because then seeing you, I'm delighted to see how positive you are and that you're moving forward. And everybody says this, everyone says it on Facebook. Everyone encourages everyone, but to hear it and to see that a lot of hard work goes into making a film, and the written part is a solid, heavy, profound part that people feel,
And
oh, the person has disappeared.
I also just finished shooting a short film.
So
Yes,
all this is all positive, huh?
Yes, and so the thing is that it was tough because this was the new world in a COVID world that we had to shoot, and maintaining social distancing, wearing masks, keeping all those things in mind, and yet we had to. So it was tough, and I wanted to do it to see, how do we adapt to this new world. We're all sitting at home and writing and just going to the park and cooking, and that's fine, but at some point we'll all have to come out and start working as well. And how do we do this? And filmmaking is a very community process. It's not like writing and painting. We have lots of people working, especially in India. There are always many people on set. So I really wanted to also see, how do we just go ahead and do it before I plunge into like bigger scale and everything. And I have to tell you that it was tough. It's
Right.
not easy to wear. I mean, we have to, but wear a mask for, like, on the first day, for the first 6-7 hours, we were wearing a mask and a shield and being like really cautious. But after those 6-7 hours, the shields just went off. It was just not possible. Most of us started getting a headache. Mask is something that we maintained. And every time somebody else forgot that you have to maintain social distancing, we're like, okay, you can talk from there. Let's maintain that. But it's very tough, and it's very tough for actors, because actors are really vulnerable on set. They can't wear a mask. If that character, that moment, what about intimacy? There's so many things. So it was I've already done that. I went and shot a short film.
Wonderful. So all this, we're looking forward to all these things, huh? We're coming close to the end of this, Tannishtha. A quick message for the French audiences who love your work, who following you, who always tell me, oh, I'm not sure I remember the name, or I can pronounce the name of the actress properly, but I love her work. I've seen her in this film. I've seen her in that film. What else can you tell them about Indian cinema, and what should they look out for? What should they like? And what should they go towards? What is Indian cinema? How do you explain it to them?
I think there could be a bunch of really interesting things that would come out, and very contemporary things. I think like Chaitanya's film Disciple is something that might release in France, because it is in BFI Toronto as well as Venice. I'm sure it has lovely Indian music. I hear, I haven't seen the film, but the trailer, since it is also set in the classical Indian music world, I think that is a film that they could sort of look forward to next. I love Paris. I love France. I love French culture. I love French cuisine, and, cheese and wine and people and films and music. Bengalis are always accused that, why were you born in India? You should have been born in France, actually. So I've been always enamored by the French culture. My biggest hope is that very soon I can come to France and film something there, or work with a French artist or a filmmaker. I'm really looking forward to that collaboration soon.
So I hope this is not going to, okay, we've got a couple of seconds. I just want to thank you immensely for this, for sharing this moment, for giving us all these beautiful films that we're watching. And we want you to carry on writing and keep giving us beautiful films, and be with us one day at Grenoble Indian Film Festival in the French Alps. So that we have you. We're praying and hoping this is going to happen soon.
Such a pleasure, and yes, good luck for the festival. I'm sure it'll be a great success. And Sonia, your passion, your enthusiasm, that I've always loved, and I'm sure you're going to get through all this. So good luck, all my best wishes, and I wish I could be there physically, but yes, one day. You're right.
Soon. We have to. It boosts our energy, and yours too. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks a million. A bientôt. See you soon. Yes. Bye. Bye bye.
Bye.